Hello, everyone. At this point, we're at the very end of Module 1. Now, this material, the American Prehistory and Worldview of Indigenous Peoples of the Americas, is not going to be on Quiz 1. Sort of my experience over the last 10 years with this course, if you're teaching in the summertime, because it hits you so hard and so fast, that once you get through monsters, that's when saturation's there. Like, that's when you can do well in a quiz, but if you add on this information we're talking about today, it's not going to be to your benefit, and I'm your advocate. Well, I have to sort of hold to certain standards. Well, here's one thing we're going to do. This is not going to be on the quiz, but it's important. The information you're watching in here is really important. It will appear on the next quiz. Okay, so this is Module 2 material. Thus, you have a little breathing space here, but I like you to take some time and go with this information because it's relatively really important. I didn't want to put a PowerPoint on this because there are two readings in here that are so good, and they're going to take you a while to get through. So I didn't want to, belabor you with a long, lecture or PowerPoint. But instead, I found a way to start this assignment off really well. There's a film out there. It was done quite a while ago called The Lost Civilizations of North America. It always is back on YouTube because it's so popular. That gives a really good overview, of how humans settled North America, and then sort of how their indigenous worldviews began to emerge, being on this continent. And certain sorts of life ways. And that's specific to North America. We're not talking about Central America or South America. That's something we'll tackle a little bit later in the course. So keep in mind, we're talking about, even when we're talking about North America, we're talking about inhabitants that have been here for 13,000 years. And we're talking about thousands of different cultures which have been here, not just generations, but different cultures as they come and they go, with all sorts of different sort of worldviews. We're trying to look for a generalistic sort of pattern. That's the best we can do in an introductory survey course. And I think it's still a powerful way of sort of getting at a Native American generalized view. And those are the papers that I have for you to read. So you're going to watch The Lost Civilizations of North America, right? This will take us to, the conquest period and some of the issues that have happened since to Native Americans. Now, to take a contemporary view of how Native Americans actually lived, we're going to be looking at the first part of a film called We Live to Survive 1 Week with a Lakota Sioux. We're going to look at part 1. So you can see how life is like on a reservation and how religiosity is very complex as the emergence of Christianity has infiltrated, their normative religions. And you can see some people here in living in embattled ways with and without Christianity, and how it kind of creates rifts within the community. And you also get an idea of how we treat our fellow Native Americans or our fellow humans on these reservations. It's a very sad look at life, but I think everyone should look at it because these people really do need our help. And then after that, we're going into two papers, right? The first papers is titled The Cosmos and the Intersubjective, Native Other Than Human Persons. So in other words, he's trying to say Native American other than human persons. There's a way Native Americans have a way of looking at the world. And I can briefly break it down, is that things out there have agency. They're not just inanimate objects. They have different cultures, but they have ways of seeing the world. Other animals have ways of seeing in the world, and they are vital to understand their ways of seeing to get their powers. If you've seen like an eagle dive at 100 miles an hour and has 10 times our sight, obviously Native Americans were aware of this, and they're aware that there's some wisdom, and they use spiritual pathways to try to connect with the other beings. And this is a form of religiosity called animism. So that paper, takes you into the generalized sort of North American framework, the animistic sort of framework. The last paper, we're going to look at how animism in itself sort of keeps human groups embedded, in sustainable ways and ecological ways within their environment. The practices themselves that sort of circle animism. And that paper is called A View from the Watchman's Pole, Salmon Animism and the Kwakwaka'wakw Summer Ceremonial Festival. I wouldn't try to pronounce that word. The very first researchers on the North Pacific Northwest coast that came in, the Kwakwaka'wakw, couldn't pronounce it either, so they shortened it and they called them the Kwakayutl. So this is looking at the salmon fishing practices of the Kwakayutl, and this is the northern end of British Columbia, right before the intersection of going into Alaska. All right. Okay, so get to work on those. And once you've completed that, and I'm going to give you guys, I think I'm not going to put Module 2 material up till this Thursday or Friday. I want to give you 2 days to sort of get through this material and understand it well. Then Thursday, probably late Thursday evening, I was going to go ahead and post the Module 2 stuff so that you can delve into it. And it will be a continuation of what we're seeing here. We're going to go further and further and further, now sort of into the Native American psychology with more specific sort of examples of animistic practices.